right, folks, welcome to another one of our little discussion things. And yeah, we're doing this shit again. We're going to talk about Nintendo again because Nintendo keeps making the news lately in terms of gaming.
Yep.
So, we all talked about the whole thing with this Nintendo to Switch 2 prices and the weird stuff with the C button and the extra cost of like basically introductory software. But recently, Nintendo, while not lowering any prices, revealed the pricing for the Switch 2 peripherals. And a lot of people are kind of split on how they feel about this because the peripherals all went up. I think the ranges kind of bounced from 4 to 10% uptick in cost. If you would, I sent you a little piece of data there if you want to reference the prices of new items as far as peripherals or replacement bits.
Well, I can look over it right now, and I can say this: for the most part, the prices are not too bad. I still think the Joy-Con strap, even in the old pricing at $12.99, was overpriced to begin with. That's just nylon cord, for God's sake.
What bothers
Um,
me in particular, and it was a problem before, is that they're wanting damn near $100 for replacements for the Joy Cons that up until recently were infamous for having the stick drift breakage issue.
did they go to the hollow whatever sticks to
Hmm.
correct that? No.
I don't know for sure. I haven't been able to confirm that. I hope they did, because it would mean you wouldn't be at least required to replace your Joy Cons every year or
Because
so.
the price slide here looks very GW to me.
Let's
Because
get ahead of inflation.
yeah, they're always
And it's
crying
like,
poor.
again, they're blaming it on the tariffs, but as fucking Mr. Bowser himself said, these prices were set prior to the tariffs. They claim they stopped to adjust them, but I think they honestly use it as an excuse to try to soften the blow of what they decide to do with the price hikes.
It's to be expected that, after so much time that
Mm-hmm.
prices will somewhat increase due to inflation and factors like that, especially labor cost. But
Yeah.
also a lot of times companies get better at manufacturing things and
Yeah.
can pass on those savings to the customers. And all I can say is apparently Nintendo is really shit
Yeah, and let's
at
be
it.
frank, because after this long, they should have been able to do something with what they were talking about they could fix with the Joy-Cons. So why are the Joy-Cons more expensive now? At least that much more expensive.
Well, isn't it because they put that mouse
That
function into
stupid
it?
mouse C button function, which I guess if you're being generous would make some degree of sense. There's more functionality. All I can say about that is I hope the controllers are more functional. But why are we charging as much as we are for a strap for the Joy Cons, right?
Because they're bilking you, and there's what they're gonna argue is that the price of their brand is so of such value that naturally even something that you could get for a couple bucks
Well,
and do
yeah.
yourself.
Let's not forget that whole adjusted value bullshit they were on about in that interview when they were talking about their products, which is horseshit in itself. Like, we popped onto Amazon, and yeah, it's a cheap knockoff, but just using the Switch charging dock because the price for that went up again. And like, there are some people who will keep multiples of those different parts of the house, so they could just take the Switch with them, just set it in the charging dock if it goes down, or if you want to, have one because your kids break your dock or something. It's more expensive than it was before, and it's in the hundreds of plus dollars just for an average one. But the fucking hilarious thing is, we went and popped on Amazon today, and there's third party hardware left. Excuse me, available on Amazon right now. You can get for like $30 for a
Yeah.
charging dock that will still let you play the Switch on your TV.
Or you could go to Walmart and get a $30 thing. There will be stuff on the third parties that will probably be drastically cheaper. I think there's a bigger problem in all of this.
You mean apart
Now,
from the greed?
yeah, apart from that, and it's simply to put it is like this: at what point? do we say that Nintendo is moving out of its traditional market of being the family brand or the family option and going into bilking more and more of their super fans, and that they're putting this more and more out of reach
I'm going to
for
tell
people?
you, it's been there for a while because I know for a fact that Nintendo has put out some very shady, predatory, fucking mobile games that are basically just gambling apps with Nintendo properties on them.
But that's more them dipping their toes in. My comment is more, at what point does this company cross a pricing threshold that just ensures that they move from the market that's made them successful to having to cater to wells?
Honestly, let me weigh in on that. I feel like they are having the Bob Iger Disney issue where they're like, well, we're just marketing to rich kids and their parents.
Well, if it's like that, then I can tell you exactly how this is going to go. They're going to move their prices upward. So
Mm-hmm.
those adjustable prices or flexible pricing will only move up, which it was going to anyways.
Yeah, it was the way they're
And
acting anyway.
and it will
If maybe
try
if they took, go ahead.
and it will try to become more and more of an exclusive brand, and you'll see like Disney, where Disney's now having to offer year-long deals for free kid dining because
Yeah.
they're so desperate to start getting people in, because you might get the big buyers once and that's it. What really made them money was having the family market where people would come in, buy them because they were the safe option for the family.
Yep.
And
And just looking like, there's a thing just for some examples. Bring up that one that showed the price increases from the old ones.
well, let's see. We got a small pool here. We got one, two, three, four, five options,
So let's discuss
and
that real quick.
we got Pro Controller. It was $79.99. It's becoming $84.99. That's a 6.25% increase.
Mm-hmm.
The Joy-Con 2 pair is $89.99, and the new price will be $94.99. That's a 5.56% increase. The carrying case, good lord, $29.99, $31.99 in new, and that's a 6.67% increase.
Yeah, that
Uh, the
figures.
Switch 2 dock, the original price was $109.99, and I believe these are the original
Yeah,
products
it's the
compared to
Switch
the
one.
new.
It's the Switch one.
Um, and then the newer one is $119.99. That's a 9.09% increase.
Basically a $10 flat out on that one.
Yeah, it's pretty much just $10 increase. Switch 2 camera, $49.99 with the original, $54.99, 10% increase. Now here's the problem with these is that when you look at them, you're like, oh, those are not that big of deals. They're just minor increases. This is the
Mm,
argument that happens with Games Workshop all the time. It's
yeah,
just $5. And then when you start looking at it in
totality.
well, yeah, you start going, oh, good lord, that's $5 there. It's $5 there. There's $5 there. You start totaling all that new expense on there, and you're like, I'm $100 more
Yeah.
in there than I was with the old thing. And that's where the problem is that that sliding scale, it seems small when you can just take one little bit out of the whole puzzle. Now, when you're buying it, you're going to get the bundle.
Right.
So you're going to get um, the one bundle is the Switch 2 plus Mario Kart World, and that's going to
Right.
have the controllers, or at least the two Joy-Con controllers, the docking station, and the
AC adapter, etc. Yeah.
AC adapter, the basics for the system to run. So you're gonna pay for that, about $500. Probably with tax, you're probably paying closer to about 600, probably about 550,
Yeah,
depending.
550 to 570
Um,
depending, and that's in US dollars, mind
and
you.
that's in US dollar dues. Pricing for both the physical and digital versions of Mario Kart World are going to be $79.99 by themselves.
The
And
digital one is $79?
that's what it says. The pricing
Holy
for both
fuck.
will be the same price.
That's broken.
And Donkey Kong Bonanza is $69.99. These will not change, and I bet they
No, very
note
unlikely.
the language they use is will not change at launch. What that
Mhm.
means is after the launch window, if these two sell well, they're going to go up in price.
Oh yeah. Well, they've already kind of pissed on their chips as far as trying to hide that when they were talking about the variable pricing fucking like scheme or whatever you want to call it.
But here's a good example. The dock,
Mhm.
$120. $120 effectively.
Right.
Are you gonna trust your kid on a trip with the Nintendo Switch where he might leave the dock at the hotel?
Or you accidentally drop it, getting up to the room or
And I'm
something.
just using that one as an example
Yeah.
because
Well, because that could
that's
easily happen.
$120 right there until third-party accessories. Are
Yeah.
you gonna trust your kid with these prices with a piece of equipment?
And I think it comes into what you were saying about like the whole, is this still a family product kind of thing? And I liked the Wii U despite a lot of its flaws, but it was the same way I felt about that. It
Yeah.
was so delicate and the screen was so finicky as far as, things being able to damage it or damage the components that I was like, a kid just has to drop this the wrong way and the whole console's fucked.
Well, the other question is if you think these are the only, if you're only judging if this is affordable or not by the increases of this single product, you're doing the wrong thing. What you need to do is look at buying power growth and compare it to expenses. So
Mm,
just a really easy one is to go gas, which has gotten cheaper at least where I live,
yeah,
and rent, which has not gotten cheaper.
no.
And you look at what part of that it pulls out of someone's check. The buying power effectively for most people throughout the world has not really continued to increase with the increases in cost of things. So
New.
what you're talking about is you're having families who are probably going to be earning on the books slightly more money, but when it comes to real terms, their rent is more expensive. Their car payments are more expensive. Their insurance is more expensive. Their kids' dental is more expensive. All of these factors come into it so that even when you have, it's what we call a price sensitive market.
Hmm.
When you have even just minor increases in price, it starts to really cause people to fall out. So I expect the Switch 2 to sell out immediately. I expect the second rollout to sell out a little bit slower.
All I can say is that
But
we're if they don't change their outlook on how games work, I'm not buying one at all. Period. And even if they do, I'm waiting for a couple of years at the very earliest before I even think about it. But let's move on from that
okay.
and move on to our next mess, which is one that I experienced personally, unfortunately.
Okay.
So there was an Indiana Jones and the Great Circle game that came out a while ago. It was an Xbox and PC via Xbox Microsoft exclusive,
Mhm.
which I didn't think much of it because that whole Dial of Destiny disaster that Disney pulled. I was
Uh,
like, okay, it's just going to be another stupid thing where they make Indiana Jones look like shit. And while I don't like Harrison Ford these days, I was still a big fan of those movies. And yes, that includes the Crystal Skull, you picky bastards. Um, but
giant ants.
that was goofy enough. I actually got a laugh out of it even. But anyway, so I kind of blew it off. And then people start that I actually trusted for the most part were like, "Hey, this game's actually surprisingly good. The writing's good. They don't marginalize Indiana Jones in his own game. The female character's not actually bad." I was like, "Huh." Well, that was unexpected. I was like, it's too bad I can't play it. And then they announced they were going to do a PS5 digital and physical version. I was like, okay, that's cool as hell. I'll wait a while and I'll grab that one. So I was like, okay. I went out and I ordered a copy because I was like, fuck it. Everybody says it's good. Shouldn't be any issues. So I went out, I got it, and I put the disc in because, PS5 freaking physical media is pretty much universally, because they're not usually as shady as Xbox, is you install the thing, the data discs on the disc, so there you go, you're good to go. So I didn't think about it when it had a patch, because there's a lot of games that end up with a day one patch, and I leave it a while, and I'm, man, this is taking a really long time, but maybe it's a bandwidth issue, I don't know. So I start playing it, and I don't think much of it. And the game is actually pretty damn good. It's kind of a stealth action puzzle game kind of thing. Pretty much what I expected. And then I'm looking at something because I was thinking about doing it in episodes. And before I do the stream for it the other night, I
Mm-hmm.
noticed some complaints popping up about it. And that was when I discovered something really shitty that Bethesda, whether under Microsoft's direction or on their own, and like we discussed during the stream, it was probably of their own volition, pulled what I would call a Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5. Now, for those of you who don't remember that, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5 came out on a physical release back on the PS4, and it turned out that they had rushed it so bad because they were about to lose the licensing that there was about a quarter of the game actually on the install disc. A quarter of the game data, and the rest all had to be patched in on via the internet so that you could actually play the game. Which meant if it ever got removed or it ever went, that network ever went down, then your game, if you uninstalled it, was shit. Didn't work. Well, I discovered that Bethesda decided that was a great fucking idea to follow in, I think, Activision's footsteps and put 20 gigs of 150 some odd onto the hard copy physical release data disc. Rather than doing anything like Cyberpunk or fucking Final Fantasy Rebirth or a couple of other games that have come out recently that had a full physical release where data was on one disc and the gameplay was on the other. Nope. You have to get on and do 100 something odd gig patch to get the rest of the game data on the game. And that is why I'm not going to be doing episodes of the game. I did a stream because it was what won the poll, but I won't be showing that on my channel anymore. And I won't be buying a single thing ever again from Bethesda either. It was the one thing I decided to give them a chance on because it was supposed to be really good. And to the developers' credit, it is really good. But marketing can eat my ass because that was bullshit. It was lies, and I'm not fucking doing that again.
Well, that makes sense. Well, honestly, what was the reasoning for it?
I haven't seen any. That's the worst. They haven't even given a reason. They just did it.
Oh my, that's not a good option. So,
The only hope is maybe later they wise up and they do a later release that actually just has two discs. But being that this is Bethesda under Microsoft, that's entirely unlikely.
well, that's true. Well, that's a bummer.
And the last thing we're going to hit on is going to be very brief on our way out the door. And that is, you remember we had the whole issue a while back with Nintendo and the developers of Pal World, which I believe are called Pocket Pair. Ha ha
Yeah,
ha, very funny. Um, well, recently there's been an issue, and I will weigh in on this only saying that this may be partially because apparently the Pocket Pair devs do not look at the Steam page for the game. That's been multiple users on Steam have noted that Pocket Pair does not read Steam forums, and they
it's all
have
right. I
a
donator.
well, sometimes for information's sake, but I rarely use Steam these days, so But anyway, the people who were brought this up had been told that they needed to contact them directly, like they have a thing to contact them via in game,
Yeah.
because somebody noted that The game, for whatever reason, is doing that, let's say, kind of telltale thing where they have body type 1 and 2 rather than male and female. And some players, I edited this post so the player's name wouldn't be in it because frankly I think they've gotten enough bullshit about this already and I don't want to show their name on the video.
Okay.
But they mentioned it and had like a dozen assholes immediately crawling up their ass for even bringing it up because unfortunately the wokest crowd is really really active in PC gaming for God knows what reason.
It's
But
just
the
that's how it
saddest part
is.
is basically they got freaking beat down in replies and mocked, and Pocket Pair, to my knowledge so far, has not even replied to the direct complaints they've gotten via in game or the requests. So I don't really know what's going on there, what the stance is, but
Mm-hmm.
it probably doesn't look good to people who are paying very close attention after the whole thing with them and Nintendo.
I don't know. I'm a great respecter of the great ones and twos.
God.
As everyone knows, the long tradition of the one and two people.
The one comment that I saw that was funny is they should just change it to body type 0 and 1 and then make it really binary.
I can feel the mechanicum flow through you. Very good.
But that's going to be it for us today. So thanks for joining us. This was just something we threw together because we saw some more news come out and we're like, oh God, here's some more of this shit. And then that whole issue, which has only been discussed briefly in a couple of places about the whole Bethesda release of that game on PS5 being completely borked. So
How lovely.
thanks for joining us. Have a great fucking day, and we'll see you all later.
Goodbye.